This is a HeadGum podcast.
Thanks for tuning into this special episode of the Black Girl Nerds podcast. My name is Jamie. I'm your host. We are going to talk about the Charlottesville tragedy and the events surrounding that, and recently, as of today, as of this recording, the disastrous press conference that took place today from Donald Trump, where, this man is obviously sympathizing with white supremacists, and he doesn't see that they have anything wrong with the actions that they took this past weekend. So we'll go over all of that and more, and I'm really excited to do another panel discussion because these are always interesting, and I really enjoy having these really profound conversations, and I know you listeners do too. So we have none other than Caron, Kyndal, Mel, and DaVette. Thank you, ladies, for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Gotta get this off my chest.
Mother's got some thoughts.
Yes.
And all of us here on this episode are from southern states or have lived in southern states at one point. I live in Virginia, in the state where this incident happened. So we'll go over all of that and kind of share some of our experiences of dealing with racism in this country. I mean, you obviously don't have to be from a certain part of the map, but I do want us to kind of share our experiences living in the South. So before we get started on that, the events surrounding the Charlottesville tragedy. When did you first hear about it? What was your reaction? Were you surprised about how this all came about? Because I think it started on Friday night, and then it escalated to Saturday, where tragically a young woman was killed as a result of this hate group protesting against the Robert E. Lee statue that apparently folks wanted to have taken down, and these guys wasn't having it. So tell me what your thoughts were about this tragedy, and anybody can jump in.
This is Caron, and my journey started Friday night. People were calling because I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of people mistakenly thought that this was happening in Charlotte. In actuality, it was Charlottesville, Virginia. So I got a lot of calls to see if I was okay, make sure I wasn't, out in the street being me. And I turned on the television and I cut the cord months ago, but I can still get some local news through an antenna. And I'm seeing this snake image of people with torches march through the University of Virginia, right?
Yeah, UVA.
Through the University of Virginia, and I'm saying to myself, here we go. Y'all been asking for this. I wasn't scared. I wasn't sad. I just said, here we go, because y'all have been asking for this. So, there comes a time when chickens have to come home to roost. And we got to see in the preceding days that that's exactly what they are. A bunch of chickens, a bunch of punks, a bunch of scared little fraidy cats, afraid of their own white tears and shadows. And it was really unfortunate when I saw the video of the car running into that crowd. My heart literally stopped. And then I saw it back out of the crowd at such an incredible, remarkable speed, and such carelessness. People were trapped between cars, and it was just, I used to be a medic, so I'm not, afraid of blood and guts and seeing accidents and things like that. But to see someone intentionally be that fucked up, I'm just going, I can't, sorry, y'all. I promise I'm not under influence of any meds, but it was so fucked up. And I knew, I said, here we go. This is it. This is Trump's America. This is what he's been talking about. This is what he has always supported. This is what he has always or never actually separated himself from. This is his law and order. This is on him. This is on his head. Not that it can get any larger or any oranger, but Orange Folius started this. He incited this, and I believe he should be brought up on charges of crimes against humanity and impeached immediately. I think he is an absolute disgrace to my uniform. He's a disgrace to my humanity, and he's a disgrace to the human color of skin. So it's very...
Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing about that. The disgrace to the human color of skin.
It's horrible. And to hear this idiot again today backtrack on the statement that he made under duress the other day, because he said what they asked him to say. He said exactly what they told him to say. And then today he held an unscheduled, nobody had approved, this press conference. He did this on his own. The fuck is unstable. He's ugly. He's unstable. He's evil. He is the personification of evil. I can't what Orange Foley is. I can't do it. But this is what he has been asking for. This is what he has always wanted. And to hear him say both sides and imply that Black Lives Matter had anything to do with this. I got into an argument about that yesterday, but the news continues to, try to explore and investigate and try to find a reason. The purpose of it is to try to find a reason or to try to make sense of it so that it can make sense to all of us. And it's never going to make sense. He never makes sense. He never made sense. He never will make sense. This is what he has always wanted. And it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm still trying to figure out why the fuck is still there. But, I digress. Mm-hmm. Not really, but just for the moment.
Well, I had, it was a strange weekend for me in a lot of ways because I was, I went to Albuquerque, New Mexico this weekend to be with friends. We were gathered in love and support of another friend who is going through a very, very difficult time, and I don't want to say any more because privacy for her, but it was a gathering that was just love-filled and laughter-filled, and for me, in this particular instance, I was the only Black person there because these ladies, one in particular, she's Jewish, and another friend of mine is Irish, Italian from New York, and another Latina. And I mean, it's kind of, we're our own little kind of multicultural group, and all my sisters. And so for me, this weekend was going to be about, being with my sisters and just being together for the first time in several years. And because of where we were in northern New Mexico, there was very little cell service, Wi-Fi service. I mean, I couldn't get a call out. I mean, we were all looking at our phones going, what? Why can't we get anything? So things were coming to me in little splotches. And first I had the same experience. Caron, someone was telling me that it was in North Carolina. So when I got a minute, I got, and communicated, I hope everybody's okay. And then I was told it was in Virginia. And I'm thinking, I hope everybody's okay. But I felt like I wanted to know more. And the more I learned in little bits and pieces, the angrier and more despondent I grew on the inside. I did not want to throw all this stuff that was feeling on everybody that I was with. I felt like I can't, I actually felt like I was actually torn inside going, do I want to spew out like all this horribleness on this time when we're all supposed to be bringing all this positive energy towards her? So it was like, it wasn't until, I guess it was Sunday evening when I was headed back to Albuquerque that I even started saying anything about it. And everybody had been getting bits and pieces themselves, and we all started talking about the tragedy of this. But I think, and I love my sisters very much, but I don't think that I can speak with them about this sometimes on the same level. Because for me, I felt like this was coming. I knew it. I felt that sense of just disbelief when Trump was elected. And I thought this was like the opening of some kind of horrible mix of evil that has just been waiting for a leader. But it's always been there. I've known it's been there. I've lived with it my whole life. I grew up in Oklahoma, and that's like Klan Central in a lot of ways. And so I felt like, as much as I saw this, I wasn't surprised, but it still made me angry and sad. So that was my experience where I was when I saw it happening.
Well, this is Kyndal. I had been out drinking, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep it real. I don't watch the news. Like I just can't. And my mother keeps me abreast of everything that's going on because she watches it all the time. So if there's anything I really need to know, or even if I don't want to know, she will tell me. So I had been out, and then I got a text message like, hey, did you hear about, X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, of course I haven't. But then I got on Twitter, and then I opened up my CNN app because I do have one just in case. And then I saw the images, I saw the pictures, and I just said, I'm too drunk for this. I can't. I can't do this. Right. And then, I just saw the headlines like, Robert E. Lee statue. And I said, I just can't. Tomorrow. And so then I just let that go. And, I'm like the rest of you. I was not surprised. My response was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And just that image, I mean, it's scary. And to think that these are people, like these same people who are attending these things are people that are sitting next to you at the office.
Mm-hmm. In court.
In
classroom,
just
police
everywhere.
Officers, law enforcement,
at the PTA,
the
White House,
right,
just everywhere.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like it. The effect that it has had on me is that I just straight up don't trust anybody, and I don't want to be like that. I actively try to not be like that, but I really got to the point where I was just like, I just feel like I cannot trust anyone, or I'm always giving everyone the side eye because I'm like, until you have proven yourself,
right.
I can't let you in my space because you're fucking with my energy and letting this stuff get off balance. I just can't do that. And so when I first saw the image of that car, the first thing that popped in my head was that guy that plowed through that crowd in Nice in France, and how that was immediately terrorist attack in France.
Yeah.
And so I was confused because I said, oh, well, I mean, this looks and sounds a lot like that incident, but yet that wasn't labeled as terrorism. So then I was also like finger points to chin because how can you sit here and you have these events that are so parallel? This is hate, this is terrorism, and then you can't come out and say that that's what it is.
Right.
And so that really bothered me because I'm just like, the way that we're labeling people and the amount of hatred that is in this country and the cult of personality for people like Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee. These motherfuckers that lost the war. Y'all motherfuckers lost.
Right. Losers.
Like you lost over 100 years ago. Like, what? See.
Yeah. It just
talk about it.
Gets all over you, doesn't it?
I just can't.
Oh my God.
I just can't. Just like the level of confusion and anger and hurt, and the fact that so many of these people, like, that you can just have so much hate inside of you. I'm like, that is not healthy. Like, how are you going day to day and you're just so wrapped up,
so angry,
and so angry, and this white supremacy and this white nationalism? Like, all we want
blood pressure. Man.
Yes. Like, all people want to do is just be treated with respect and be treated equally.
Right.
And the fact that
I want more than that.
Well, yeah, no, like, but I feel like that's like basic needs, like basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a problem. You have a problem with basic stuff. I mean,
they respect animals more than they respect us.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that it's the people part. All people want to be treated respectfully. They don't see us as people, so they don't have to treat us respectfully.
Mm-hmm. That's it right there.
Right. That's
what it always comes down to. Yeah.
It comes down to you are a lesser being. You don't register on the same level. That's what they think. It's like they've been just brought up for generations with the idea that they are, talk about entitled, they are entitled to everything that they would want. And if nothing else, they are entitled to be better than us. They can say, I might not be rich, but I'm not black. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's that.
Everybody want to be a nigga. Nobody want to be a nigga.
Right.
Hey. I knew you were going to say it. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting on somebody.
Yeah.
Was that Paul Mooney that said that?
Yep, Paul Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of... Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just continuing that line, but go ahead.
Okay, so this is Mel, so I'll say I was talking about something ridiculous on the Black Girl Nerd Slack when I found out. I was between that and looking at Twitter, trying to find some funny things, when I started seeing all the images. And, like, by default, I'm an anxious mess. So seeing that did not help my anxiety at all. It just skyrocketed to, like, a 9 and then a 10. And I'm like, oh, my God. And then you guys are right. Like, it's not that I was surprised. It was... I guess I was, in a way, horrified that we've gotten to the point that they were out there, hoodless, just out there. Their faces... out there with the cameras, and they did not.
And their guns. Let's not forget they were armed. They were very well armed.
They were. But, like, they didn't give a damn that they were on camera, that everyone was seeing this. They had no fear that they would face any repercussions for this. Not one whatsoever. And then it's like every day it's driven home the world we live in now that this man is in office. But that was like, it was especially hard to deal with. It was especially hard. So yeah, I'm keeping mine short, so.
All my life I had to fight.
All my life.
So that Saturday was a weird day for me because it was a very high point for me. I had the opportunity to meet with NPR and did a fantastic interview, and I met Stephanie Williams, who's my co-host on Misty Night's Uninformed Afro, and we met for the very first time and hung out. I met her husband, and it was just a really great experience and a great moment. And after the video team left and after Stephanie left, I turned on my television set and I saw breaking news. Actually, rewind. I saw Twitter first because, I'm always on Twitter. I saw my Twitter feed going crazy. And then I turned on CNN and I saw what happened. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then that was when they made the announcement that a young woman was killed. And then they showed the video like on a loop of the car ramming into the crowd. And, I was sort of semi-glad that I wasn't... that I had something to distract me during most of that day. Because if I spent all of my Saturday just plugged to the news, it really would have just taken a lot out of me. But it was a really sad and disappointing thing to see, but I wasn't surprised. And what really angered me, was seeing people so shocked about this. And
Right. Yes.
This is not America. This is not America, guys.
Right. This is not us was the hashtag and all of these
We
white
should qualify that.
Yeah.
Qualify that, people.
Yeah.
No, this is one of those times where I can say not all people were
We're
shocked.
better than this, America.
This is not the America I know. And I'm like, where the fuck have you been for the last... And I just, and it kind of angered me too that it wasn't just white celebrities, but also black celebrities chiming in on this. And I guess it's because a lot of people are complicit in Donald Trump becoming president. Not from just a political level, but also entertainment and media, and how so many people have not made any kind of attempt whatsoever to make this man accountable for his actions, even while he was campaigning, to say this man is not fit to be president. This man has a racist past. I mean, Donald Trump has been explicitly racist since the 70s.
Since he was born.
There was a huge racial discrimination lawsuit against him for his work as a real estate developer in the 70s, which he lost. So, like, this shouldn't shock anybody. Obviously, the 80s with the Central Park Five, and then just all of these, you know, this history of racism and systemic racism on top of that. So for people to be like, you know, this is just appalling, this is just shocking, I can't believe I'm witnessing this, that part made me mad. I guess I'm just so jaded being used to seeing white people do some of these things, because white people have actually been terrorists in this country more than brown people, than people of color, being hurt, being killed domestically. White people have actually been terrorists in that, and for folks to just be surprised about it, it made me mad. So I spent my evening upset. I spent my day very happy, but it was a really sad and unfortunate thing to see. I wanted to know from you guys about law enforcement. And how you
I'm sorry, please continue.
I know it's funny and it's tragic at the same time, because I guess I need to acknowledge that there were 2 officers that were killed as well during this incident. But how do you think law enforcement handled this situation?
I have to say this because, and this is Caron again, and I'm going to say the thing that nobody is saying. It's tragic that those 2 police officers lost their lives in the line of duty, but they were on their way there. They were not there. That helicopter accident happened before they got there. And the way they are being held up is they died in the line of duty. They died doing their job on the helicopter, but they were not there. They did not die as a result of being in the midst of that crowd. And the narrative that was being spun before the details came out about that helicopter crash was that they died there because people on the ground were fighting. So, you know, I got into a beef yesterday online because one of the great leaders in hairdressing put up a "Can't we all just get along" post, and I said we never all got along. When did we get along? I need to know. I need to know when we got along, because one of her statements was, you know, nobody should have been there. Okay, nobody should have been there protesting the protesters and all this other stuff, and the overall tone of her message was supposed to be supportive and positive, but to a black person, it's not supportive and positive. It's like, where the fuck you been? Where the fuck have you been? Because you can talk about law enforcement being there And the question she asked was, were they prepared? I said, what do you mean, were they prepared? I said, people of color in peaceful protests are met with riot gear and tear gas. Mm-hmm. White people with histories of violence and fully armed are met with greetings and fresh fucking water. Bitch, please.
My tweet went viral, by the way. I had put out a tweet about, did the SWAT team take off that night? And it got like almost 20,000 retweets.
Wow.
Yeah,
and then of the hypocrisy there.
I saw the Vice piece. Vice did a piece that they put out yesterday, which was Monday, and they were interviewing some of the trash that organized, and they did show some images of some officers in riot gear, but that was after Heather had already been killed.
But what about Friday night?
Friday night? Oh, they were chilling. Oh,
yeah, that's when I tweeted that was Friday night when they were protesting because they were throwing, cans and, fighting with each other in the streets. That was happening on Friday night.
It was their duty to protect them, and they protected them so well.
And fire, exactly.
They could have set that whole campus on fire, and then the cops would have done nothing.
I was listening to...
And when people were being beaten, they were doing nothing.
Right.
They were doing nothing.
Like civilians helping civilians at that point. And see, and I was listening to an interview with a former police chief in San Diego on NPR, and he was saying that there was, you knew this was going to happen. They should have been prepared for the worst. So, I mean, you knew you had these racists, getting ready to march. You knew there's going to be counter-protests. In the whole, before anything had ever gotten started, the police department should have been preparing for the worst possible scenario. And that's in, people not staying apart in a riot and had those numbers and that amount of preparation there. But it looked like they were.
But half of the staff of the law enforcement was there protesting. They were the ones holding the tiki torches.
There you go.
For them, the worst is a group of black people protesting. Since this was a group of white people protesting, then it wasn't that bad.
Because white people aren't a threat.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, DeRay had said that if black people were there, they would have called the National Guard. And that's exactly what happened in Ferguson. They did call the National Guard.
And they're not strolling they're not strolling up on Greenmount Avenue in Baltimore either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They choose safe places for them. They choose places to have these protests where they know they're welcome and they're going to be safe. Mm-hmm. They're going to be protected, and they're going to be able to bear and use their arms as they see fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kyndal, Mel, what do you guys think about how law enforcement handled the matter?
Were they there?
Right. Kyndal,
you mean they were there?
They did it.
I keep thinking about, I'm sorry I can't remember her name, but the young woman who was in the sundress, who the cops in the riot gear ran up on like she was about to blow the entire place up. I keep thinking about that image and how they approached her and how they did not approach these grown men holding torches, armed like they were about to do something, wearing assault gear. There were men out there in the same gear as the cops, except theirs did not have any, official insignia on it. But it was basically the same thing. And then that pretty much says it all. I'm like, you're there to serve and protect only the people that look like you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Aisha.
And then that's
it was Aisha Evans, by the way. It was the young woman. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, and then that young guy who was beat up by the white supremacists and was right next door the police station. And then
that was disgusting. It was
right next door. It was right next door to you. And then what did you do? Nothing.
Nothing.
So I'm going to say again, were they there? I don't know. I didn't see them. For all I know, there were just a bunch of white supremacists there, and they just looked like cops.
Right.
I don't know if they're
Maybe some of them just went to the shop and got costumes to make it look like there were like
That's
maybe it was an
there were
iRobot
some people
situation.
there.
Maybe they were cloned and they were just put there like to look like they had a presence.
like cop dolls, like they were dolls.
Life-size cop Kyndals. Jeez.
And then there was a photo of a black cop who was standing in front of a gate, and a lot of people made a big deal about that black cop, talking about this photo should win a Pulitzer. I was like, why? That's everyday life for all of us.
But that photo was from last month.
We
They debunked
always
that so
Really?
quickly.
yeah. We
It's
always
so quick that they
end
debunked
up.
that. So
Oh, hold on.
everywhere.
I didn't hear you, Mel. Say that again.
I said they debunked it so quickly that photo was from July. That was not from this. And then it is still being passed around Facebook, passed around by white people saying, look at this. We can all get along. Look at how he's doing his job. So brave, so patriotic.
We always do our damn jobs. And most of the time out in the photo of the KKK member in his robe in the operating room with all the black doctors, that one was circulating too. I'm like, who do you think is treating these motherfuckers? It ain't enough of y'all with enough magic to keep you alive. You don't have enough magic or enough melanin. So who do you think you gonna have to come to? I'm done with it. It's like this element of this is not new. This is not rare. This is not surprising. It was crazy, but it's not new. Every single day, there's a black person sitting in a place, whether it's in corporate America or at the police station or in the damn supermarket, that's having to hold their peace because somebody got out of pocket. Or even defend the people who would oppress them if they could. Help me, Lord Jesus. I can't.
help me, Lord Jesus.
Especially when you're in the South. Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it right there.
Just
And I say it all the
conflicting
time. It's like past is prologue. Past is prologue. Past is present.
Yeah.
My daughters went to a concert on Sunday night. One of my daughters is a huge fan of a band called The Maine, and she follows them. She keeps in touch with them, and whenever they come to the area, they know her now, and it's real sweet, real innocent, nice. But this particular night, and her older sister went with her, my oldest daughter, and they're at the concession stand, and somebody said, "Look at those nigga bitches. What the fuck are they doing here?"
God.
And my daughter texted me. She was like, "Ma," that's her voice. Ma, who you be so proud of me right now? I said, just keep your cool and call your ride before the concert lets out so you can get out of Dodge.
Has anybody on this call not been called the N-word?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. And so
That would be a no.
This is DaVette. I've been, oh my God. And I have friends when I have said that, who are so shocked. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I said, do you not live in the same world? No, actually, you don't live in the same world. That's the problem. You don't understand that this is my life. Because I have a lot of white friends. It's just the nature of how I've grown up. I have lots of white friends, friends of lots of different races, but I can never make them understand what it's like for me growing up, what it was like for me growing up in Oklahoma, and even just being alive in California. It doesn't matter. It's that there are people who look at me and make these assumptions about my level of intelligence, the kind of food I eat, what I drink, what my life is like based on the color of my skin. And there are people who feel absolutely fine, easy, joyful about calling me a nigger to my face. You know, they don't think that, why would that be a problem? You know, but they don't think that that's possible in this day and age, quote unquote. Oh, that doesn't happen anymore.
Wrong.
Yes, in fact it
Wrong.
does. Yes, in fact it does. It's like, nothing has changed in that way. This thing that happened in Charlottesville is simply that scab, you know, breaking off and the stuff coming out underneath it. There's may have been a little bit of a scab, but we've all known what's there. And these people are just kind of pushed it out there and said, no, we're still here in case some, and I kind of I feel like, yay, are you guys looking at this now? Do you see? This has always been here. It hasn't gone away. And just because you want to believe that it's gone away, just like maybe you're thinking that, no, I'm not like that. Well, that doesn't mean it's not here. That doesn't. You need to pay attention. You need to do something about it. You need to stop being quiet. And you need to listen to me when I say that that's not an isolated incident. And that I live very carefully because I know it's there. I have a brother who's in Indiana. And I said again to my husband last night, I'll be glad when because I keep telling him, please leave that area, please. There's so much there. I said, maybe it's not that much better here in California, but it's a little bit. Can you please just come out here with us? And he wants to stay there till he retires from his job. And every day I think, am I going to get a call because he got stopped by some racist cop, or he got, you know, some guy at work waited for him after work, or he was just going to the store, you know? And I think the only thing that keeps him safe is that he's 6'6". He looks like a football player. But, you know, it's like not many people are going to run up on him anyway. But
hey, DaVette's brother.
You know, are you listening, King? Anyway, I'm going on too long.
So, I want to jump to, because I know we've kind of touched upon it, your personal experiences of racism, and then we'll talk about orange Cheeto breath. What have been your personal experiences? I mean, one moment that will always stick with me for as long as I live, this actually happened years ago when I was a kid. I'm born and raised in Virginia, born in Portsmouth, raised in Virginia Beach. So there's pockets of rednecks that live around here. I mean, occasionally you'll see cars with Confederate flags and bumper stickers and all of that stuff. Pretty much been a Republican state for many years. Turned Democrat when Obama got elected. Woohoo! And turned Democrat when Trump got elected. But it's definitely a large contingent of white supremacist groups that are here. So what happened to me when I was a kid, I was actually in a thrift shop just walking around, and they had different aisles in the store, and I was walking up and down each of the aisles, and it was myself. I was the only black kid in the store. I think I was about 8 or 9 years old when this happened. And the store owner was an older white woman, and she looked at me. And I looked back at her, and I was like, okay, you know, whatever. And then I walked down the aisle to my left, and then she walked down the aisle to the left and looked over at me again. And then I slowly began to realize this woman is following me around the store. Is this really happening? And as a kid at that age, I didn't really understand what racism really was, but I just remember feeling incredibly sad and upset and angry. And I actually walked out of the store with my mom, and I cried. And that moment still sticks with me. I didn't feel like I was treated like a human being. I didn't feel like I had any kind of value in that moment. And I will always remember that for the rest of my life. Even though it happened years ago, I will always remember that this woman thought that I was someone that was possibly capable of stealing something in the store, where she's following me around like I'm a criminal. And I was just a kid. So, I'm curious to know what your personal experiences are dealing with racism.
Let's see. I grew up in a very progressive, artistic and political household. So the cultural arts were a form of social activism, and my father was a politician. So I've lived with overt and systematic racism in schools, in the military, at church, at the playground, at the theater, for damn sure the beauty industry, corporate America, the supermarket, the stoplight, the hospital, the stop sign, in the grass, in the field, in the house. You know, there's no area of life that racism doesn't touch. The last time I acted on what was on racism, I was in Nordstrom here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was there to buy some makeup because I ran out of makeup and I was about to go on a trip and just needed to pick up a few things. And I'm looking at some new stuff because NARS had just come out with a new palette and I'm all excited and, trying to get my thing together, And this chick just keeps popping up. Now, mind you, I used to work for Nordstrom. I worked for them for a long time. I had a boutique in one of their flagship stores. So I know how their rules are when it comes to behavior of their associates, how you respond to people on the floor, what you don't do on the floor. Every time I turned a corner, I started seeing this shadow. So I said, okay, let's play a game. And I just started going to random corners. And there she was every single time. So I took out my phone and I started tweeting. I said, y'all, I'm at South Park in Nordstrom. I'm in the cosmetics department and this bitch is following me. So I tagged the store. I tagged the store manager. And I immediately got a DM. It was like a minute and a half. And they were like, can you describe them? And I described them and all that. And then the phone rang. And she picks up the phone and they had her come upstairs. And then later on I got a nice little note from them or whatever. And somebody called and talked to me later on. But it was like, we're not doing that, girl. No. All this money in my pocket. I know you on commission. I know what you make, girl. You're not getting this. I don't like you. But you're not going to follow me in this store. And at one point I turned around and I said, what you want? What do you want? Oh, I was just trying to be here in case if I need something, I call you. I don't need anything. Stop it. And she was looking at me straight. And the most interesting thing happens when you confront these motherfuckers. When you confront them on their behavior, all of a sudden, they play dumb. Or they start to cower and show you the cowards that they really are. Because the truth of the matter is, they like to lurk. They like to lurk in their little darkness, in their little corners. But when you confront them, and I am a confrontational person, I know it's hard to believe, but I am a confrontational person.
Say it
but
ain't so.
It's disheartening. And there was a part of me that was so incredibly angry because it is still so incredibly unnecessary. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, she's about to stupid her way out of a commission. You go into any high-end store, and certain people will look at you as if you don't belong there. Even Oprah a few years ago.
Yeah.
When she
I
went
was just
into
thinking
Hermes,
about that. Yeah.
I
was just
this is the daggone queen of the world.
Right.
And they want to, I'm over it. So for the people that, claim that they're surprised by this, they either don't care, they haven't been listening, or they're not paying attention, because we've been telling them for years. We've been saying it. We've been showing it. We've been demonstrating it. We got audio. We've got video. We got 3D. We got virtual reality. We got everything to prove that what we have been saying all this time is true. And yet they're still like, who, me? I'm not a racist. But of course, we live in a world where it's worse to be called a racist than it is to actually be one. So
Wow.
Yeah. Well, my experience is very similar in that it also involves a store. Like, what is it with these people in stores?
I think it's a southern thing.
Like,
No, it's not.
It is.
It's
No,
not.
I mean,
it's not.
it happens everywhere, but I don't know.
It's definitely not Southern.
I feel like it happens more in our region of the world than in other places. Mm-hmm. But go on, Kyndal.
Because we're all criminals.
Yeah.
I know. Well, like, so my family is from this very, very small town in Texas. I like to call it the Sticks because that's literally all that's there. Sticks and rocks. And I mean, I didn't grow up there, but I just, ever since I was a baby, we just went for Mother's Day and Thanksgiving and, all types of gatherings. And my ancestors are buried there. I can trace my family back in that small town until at least 1803.
Wow.
And
Excellent.
so I was there because my grandparents have a house there. And so whenever they go, they just stay. And my cousin and I had the idea that we wanted to bury this time capsule in the backyard. And we were like, we're going to bury this time capsule and then we're going to come back 10 years later and we're going to open it up and we're just going to live life. And so I drove in from Houston and she drove in from Austin. And I got there before she did. And I stopped at a gas station because we had planned to go to the movies, which this town is so small, the movie theater was like 40 minutes away. So I was like, all right, well, let me just go get some gas. So I go in the gas station and immediately I just felt the energy inside. When I walked in, I was the only Black person and I just got these stares and I heard these guys, young, like my generation, like, so not like some old white people, like young white people, that were pretty much like, what's this nigga doing here? Like that. Mm-hmm. And, I was like, you know what? I'm not living this life right now. I didn't say anything. And then I go to the counter and the woman is just like giving me these weird looks. And so she starts asking me questions and I immediately know like she's just trying to rile me up or, because I'm like, you wouldn't be asking any other customer in here these questions, And so what I ended up doing is I basically like name dropped my grandfather because I'm like, my family is from here. Like, don't try and do me about how I don't belong here. What am I doing here? Trying to make me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, homie, my people were here before yours. Okay. So fall back. And I was like, actually, I'm staying, I'm here for whatever. And I'm staying on Carter Road. So my family's name is Carter. So the street is named after them. And then she just did an about face and was like, oh, you're related to so-and-so? And I'm like, and in the back of my head, I'm just thinking, oh, okay, so now I'm a good nigga because you have an association of like why I'm here and what I'm doing here. And I'm like, look, I just want some hot Cheetos and a Snapple. Like, I'm just really here to get some hot Cheetos and a Snapple. I've already pumped my gas. Like, leave me alone. And it upset me. I mean, it was something so small, or just like that questioning, or just like that uncomfortable feeling that I got. But I'm like, you all are not going to make me feel this way in a place that is like my ancestral home. Like, you're not about to make me be uncomfortable. I'm going to own my place, and you will deal with it. And so I was just pretty much like, you know what, you can just leave me alone. And so once I told her, I was like, I'm going to be like, I'm staying on Carter Road, and I made sure I said that. And then I just said, how about you stop asking me questions, because I don't need to answer them. And she's like, oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. I just never seen you around here before. And I just held up my hand. I was like, that's fine. Can I have my change, please? Mm-hmm. Like, just. Mm-hmm. Just give me my change. Like, don't try to, oh, sweetheart me, and oh, you're just playing off of this Southern hospitality. No, you're giving me looks and you're asking me these questions because you see that I'm Black, and for whatever reason, you don't like that. And I don't care. And I just pretty much, you know, when I came back and my cousin had already made it there, we were like, all right, we're going to go to the movies. And I just said, you know what? I don't even know if I want to go anymore, because I was just not in the mood. And even though I didn't like go off, or it didn't have that immediate effect on me, the more I sat and thought about it, just the angrier and angrier I got. And I think it was just like, I just tried to ignore it and brush it off. But I was like, she was really trying to size me up. Those guys in the gas station were really like calling me out my name, and it just didn't hit me until I left. And I was like, you know, I can't do this. And it just made me angrier because I was feeling uncomfortable in a place that is supposed to be like my home. And that's what I did. That's what I didn't like the most, that I'm going to get to the point where I don't want to come here anymore. And I don't want it to be like that. So,
yeah. I wonder if it is something, this is DaVette, I wonder if there's something about, you know, so we all have these experiences and in retail in particular, because mine was like my first thought about race in that way was, I remember being probably about, I think I must have been about 6, and I went into a bakery with my mother. It was a bakery we used to go, I mean, it's a very small town. And I remember going into this bakery and this older white woman behind the counter. And we walked up to the counter and she says, "So what can I get for you girls?" And I thought, I mean, for me, a little girl, I thought that was funny. You know, that, oh, she's calling my mom a girl. She must think my mom is very young. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But my mom went like stone, and she just said, pick up whatever it was that she was picking up. She did not smile in return. She did not do anything. She just got her stuff and paid for it, and we left. And I asked my mom, I said, "Mama, she calls you a girl." And she said, "Yes, I know, but I'm a woman." And that was the first time I realized, you know, that there was something wrong. And my mom later explained it to me. She called me a girl because my mom said, because I'm a Negro and she's white. She wasn't trying to be nice. And it just went all over me. I mean, I just wanted to run back in and tell that lady, you know, my mom is a woman, you know, but it was just us like, is it something about sales clerks that they feel like that they can get away with that shit? I don't understand it. It's
I don't know, like they feel empowered behind the counter.
Yeah.
It's like a part of their training. Racial profiling is a part of their training manual or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but it wasn't the last time, but I think that was the first time.
I wish it was isolated to retail.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I know.
I think for me, it's always been weird because my family's not originally from this country. So they came here in like the late 70s and they went straight for New York City, which everybody was racist. The people, the politicians, the cops. It was just everything was racist in New York City at that time, the late 70s, the 80s, the early 90s when we lived there. And then we moved from there to Georgia, which for most of the time that I lived there, half the flag was the Confederate flag. We spent summers at Stone Mountain, which has Confederate figures carved into the mountain. And there's a laser show that makes them ride off into the distance as that country song, "I'm Proud to Be American" plays.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And where I could, for some of my history classes, for if I wanted to get extra credit, I could participate in a Confederate battle reenactment.
Girl, stop. I can't.
You are not serious.
I am serious.
Oh my God.
We say Georgia is racist as hell. So, like, yeah, so much was going on in that state. You know, so many rules I developed about not stopping at any gas station, you know, that's like, I don't know, 10 miles outside of the city limits. You know, not being in any place that's not predominantly black. Stay in Atlanta. Stay in certain parts of Atlanta. Don't move out of those parts because it's going to get messed up real quick. But my story, I'm not going to say anything about retail because, you know, that happens. We've done that. My thing is, recently, I lived in upstate New York. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't know is that once you start getting outside of New York City, like the predominantly black parts of New York City, it gets racist real fast. So in upstate New York, where I lived, there weren't that many black people. But the black people who lived there were all, well, not all, but like mostly living in one part of the city. When I first moved there, I lived on the opposite side of the city. Everything was fine. I didn't really notice anything weird. And then I moved to the other side where all the black people were, which was like, I don't know, maybe 30 people. Not that many people in this city. And then all of a sudden, cops are everywhere. It's not that big of a city. There were cops in cars. There were cops on friggin' bikes in this place. There were foot patrols in a neighborhood that was maybe 3 blocks. And then I'm looking around, I was like, why are there so many? And then my boss, who was white, but she actually got it, unlike most of the people that I worked with, would say, she lived near me, and she would say that people would not let their daughters come play with her daughter because she lived in the bad neighborhood. And there was no difference between any of the neighborhoods in that city except the neighborhood that we lived in had black people in it. It wasn't even predominantly black. It just had black people in it. So then every time I'd walk my dog, I'd see cops out on the corner. And I told this story during our Get Out roundtable. There was like one night I was walking my dog and it got dark there really quickly during wintertime. So it was like maybe 6:30, but it was pitch black outside. And I was wearing a hoodie and walking down the street, just minding my own business. And then there's a white man in a car who followed me for 2 blocks because I was walking through the white part of the neighborhood. And he followed me. And I kept thinking that entire time, I was like, this could end really badly. For what? For what? Because he saw, I guess he didn't even know if I was a girl or not. He just saw a black person in a hoodie at night. And he thought that's a danger right there. And I need to take care of that. I need to see what this person is doing in my neighborhood. And I just kept thinking about that. And every time I walked my dog, I thought about that because I'm like, okay, I have to walk through the white part of the neighborhood because it's just a block over. But every time I went, people were watching me through the blinds, from cars. It was just, I had to get out of there. I was like, after all that time I lived in racist Georgia, living in upstate New York was the most unsafe I've ever felt in my life. I had to get out of there.
Oh, well,
It's exhausting, isn't it?
it is
exhausting.
It is. It is.
It's really
It is exhausting. And, you know, I remember I took a job in Gainesville, Georgia, speaking of Georgia, and I was the director of education for a really large salon. It was called Princeton Salon and Spa. And I had about 25 women that I was hired to train. And I was having lunch one day and I decided to have sushi, and all these people started coming downstairs, like to look. And I'm like, what is going on? Is something going on? They were like, I've never seen a black person eat sushi before.
Oh my
And
God.
then the owner's husband says, I've never seen a black person up close before.
Oh, God.
And then the girl says, I heard color folks couldn't talk.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yo,
That's like-
man.
Sis, good
She
night.
said, is it true that you all wear weaves because you can't grow hair? I said, bitch, get out my face.
You know what? I always joke with my brother. I'm like, we joke, don't go to any of the villas in Georgia. None of the villas.
None of the bills. None of the bills.
If it ends
None
in a
of the
bill,
bills.
don't go there. Don't stop
Don't
there.
go there. And it's
Confederate
like,
flags. everywhere.
Vills and Bergs.
Vills and Bergs. Avoid the Vills and Bergs. And it's like, I had to learn what the Southern middle finger was. Bless your heart. I used to think bless your heart was a term of endearment.
No.
But it's not. It's the middle finger from the South. Bless your heart.
Yep. So speaking of ignorant ass statements, Trump had a few. He did 3 press conferences, and I wanted to know what your opinions were about each of his statements. His first press conference, where it was the day the Charlottesville tragedy happened, and he Trump basically was saying that it was an all sides situation, that the accountability is from all sides, including the Nazi white supremacists, KKK protesters, to the anti-protesters and anti-racist protesters that were out there, which they were very peaceful, but the white supremacist protesters were not. So he blamed accountability for the people that weren't even causing violence at this incident. Then he had a second press conference, which I'm pretty sure he was forced to do, which he was probably reluctant to do, where if you watch the press conference, you can tell that he's just reading off the teleprompter and saying what he was told. And then he does say by name that these were white supremacists that were out here, that were a part of this incident. But then today, he doubled down on his statements on the first press conference, and he stands by his statement that all sides are accountable in this incident, and he refuses to acknowledge accountability for these white supremacist protesters that are the cause of why this disruption happened and why this young girl's life is no longer, because one of the people that were in that car that ran through the crowd was one of these protesters. So he hasn't acknowledged any of that. And I just want to know what your thoughts were about the fact that basically the president of our country seems to be a sympathizer of white supremacists.
Fuck him.
Fuck
Ditto.
him.
Yeah. I'm there.
You know, I'm exhausted I'm exhausted with his ass. I'm exhausted. There is not a more incompetent person on the face of this earth. There is not a more insensitive, incompetent, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, tiny-handed, little penis, idiotic, orange-ish, unnatural, demon-spawned motherfucker on the face of the earth. Fuck him. There is nothing that comes out of his mouth that's the truth. And when somebody made a statement online that when he read that second statement, he looked like a hostage who was forced to make a statement and they were holding the camera, you know, and this interestingly enough, between the second and the third statement, David Duke had something to say about he said, remember that it was white Americans that put you in the White House. And then today we have this unscheduled impromptu press conference where he not only double backs on what he says about the white supremacists, the KKK and the neo-Nazis, but he also praises Steve Bannon. That's a great guy. He's a great guy, and he's unfairly treated in the media. Fake news. He's such...
And he said that there were fine men that were protesting that day.
Fine men who were protesting.
Fine men.
Like they are outstanding citizens of society. Is this the great? Is this the great you were talking about in Make America Great Again?
That's exactly it.
How about Make America Not Racist for the First Time? How about that?
Good luck with that.
David Duke thanked him today.
Yeah, he did.
After his thing, it was like
after the third one, he thanked him today for correcting his statement and supporting them. And it's like, there is not a word that exists in the English language to describe the nature of this beast. I don't have a word, and I pimp words, and I don't have a word. I do not have, there is not a word in our language or a phrase that can sum up the inhumanity and incompetence and impossibly stupid orange. Just,
I used to love orange.
I used to
love Cheetos. Yeah.
I know.
Orange
So I used to love
foliage
Cheetos.
have
I
ruined
could
a
never
lot
eat
for me.
Cheetos.
Have you seen the protest signs, by the way, that were drawn where the 45, as in the 45th president, is drawn like a swastika?
Yes.
That's so brilliant.
Yes.
Man.
They have flags with that.
I saw buttons, too.
Yeah, they have flags with the 45 as a swastika. Brilliant graphic design,
Yeah.
but
Anybody else have thoughts on? Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the thing is that, like we've been saying throughout, these people have been around, and they are around, but we've never, or at least not in recent years, had a national leader in the United States this bad. You know what I'm saying? This stupid, this
Unqualified.
Unqualified.
in the history of the
ignorant.
world.
Yeah.
And this
I wanna go to
racist
history of the
out
world.
loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Inadvertently causing a nuclear war.
Oh, yeah,
with
that's just,
another
he's just
of
going to
his
happen to trip
kind.
over it.
He's like Nero. He's like Nero. Like, just whole place is going to be up in flames, and he's just going to be sitting there like, okay.
Fiddling while USA burns. I just can't even imagine how I'm sorry. I did a short film in November where I imagined, the first part of it was this black and white imagining in a very overdramatic way of what it was like for 4 years. And we were saying, women and minorities can't be out after dark, and people are trying to get to the Mexico where they're still accepting refugees and all this stuff. And it was done in this very tongue-in-cheek way. And then it switched to election night, and the women there were talking about how each of them had forgotten to vote or had a reason not to vote or did a protest vote or something. And then they're watching the news in horror as they realize that Trump is in fact being elected. And I at the time I thought, when I first wrote it, I said, well, this is a little extreme possibly at the beginning. I'm going to make it tongue in cheek a little bit. And then we'll get to the reality of election night. And then I realized so quickly that it was, this is almost prophetic at this point. And every day I tell myself, it's like, well, he's going to do something so stupid, so outrageous that they're going to yank him. It's going to happen. It's like he cannot continue on this path, and he's still sitting in the presidency. And he is every day. He's been in there for 8 months.
There's something that Russia or something that someone's got a hold over him on, because think about it, like these white supremacists, they were also anti-Semitic because they were saying Jews replace us, or I forgot exactly what the sentiments they were saying, but anti-Jewish folk. And Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, is Jewish, so he didn't even speak out against this. So there's something weird going on where they're supporting Trump, and Trump is being supported by some foreign body, probably Putin and his folks, that is just allowing him to continue to do what he's doing in the Republican Party, and so many folks, in our administration and in Congress and in the Senate that are just kind of sitting idly by and just letting it happen. So that's why when I see these tweets from Marco Rubio and all of these Republican politicians, I'm just like, dude, you guys are getting no cookies for speaking out against Trump, because where were you when the guy got elected? Where were you when he was campaigning? Right. You weren't really saying much there. So I feel like you're just as complicit in what's happening in our country as Trump's administration is.
Yeah. Like you're a day late and like $5 short.
I mean, they will say something on Twitter. They will say something in front of a press conference. But when it comes to saying something on the floor with their votes, they're always supporting Trump, because they know Trump is, whatever he's doing is helping them. they're getting richer. They're getting more powerful off of this. So they don't care if he drives this entire country to the brink of destruction. As long as they can retire in the Cayman Islands with a nice fat bank account, they are going to be fine. The rest of us, who cares, because they didn't care in the first place. I mean, right now you can really say politicians are evil and mean it, because they are. They do not
they're so
care
fake.
one bit
like
about us.
It's a severe lack of empathy.
Yeah.
That I cannot. I mean, that's really all that I can say. The lack of empathy and the inability to see people who, like, the inability to see people as people and to actually care. I just can't. And these are people that you're supposed to be serving. Like, people are sitting in these town halls and you're just like, I mean, oh, well, it's all about my pockets. I'm like, what? I can't do it.
But isn't that a function of privilege, though? You don't have to think about the people you don't have to think about.
Yeah.
Well, now they need to think about it, because election season,
their job.
y'all gonna be all out of jobs.
Their whole job.
They better be.
Think about it.
I mean, the only way they're out is if we vote.
Exactly.
That's,
and
we have to.
And let this be proof. Yeah, let this be proof positive that apathy by not voting doesn't get us anywhere either, because that's how Trump has gotten. Because I know that a lot of people decided to sit this election out, and
a lot
that
of people
has.
Did, but he still lost the popular vote by over 3 million people.
And then you got to also look at how much voter suppression has become a problem.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
worse.
It's not just
because
out to vote.
Because elections
voted. They voted their voices for the other candidate. They voted their voices for Hillary Clinton.
Right, but let's remember,
we have this electoral college that is antiquated. It's been long antiquated. This is the second time this has happened in my lifetime.
So let's remember that elections matter on all fronts. It's not just the presidential election. It's those congressional elections. It's your local treasurer, your city council. Like, people, we need to really galvanize folks to go out there and hit the polls, because then we could turn things around, like gerrymandering. We can turn things around where voter suppression is no longer, but we need the right people in those seats, in those positions, to make sure that they're looking out for the American people and not for themselves.
And your local and state judges, learn who these people are.
Right.
Don't just click down the ballot because you don't know who they are. Learn who these people are. And it's a sad day in America where we look to George Bush with affection.
Listen.
Oh my God.
Listen. I met George Bush maybe like 6 months ago because I was in Dallas for an event and I got invited to this thing. And I'm over here and I'm like, you are so funny, just funny and likable, and just
darling,
just cracking jokes and, talking about his dog. And I'm like, it's a sad state of affairs. Like you said, when you're just like, I miss you, George. It's a sad state of affairs.
That is sad.
Like he was awful, but he wasn't contemptible.
Yeah.
Because he was a charming guy. That's what everybody always said about him. He was like the kind of guy you'd love to get a beer with, which I don't know why continues to be a good selling point for the president of the United States. But
right.
Yeah.
It was.
I want to have a beer with Uncle Joe.
But no, me too.
Listen.
Me too. But yeah, all of this is the Tea Party's fault. All of this.
Yes.
This is the best they made. And now we all have to lie in it, unfortunately. But yeah, they have been stoking up this country to get to this point for years.
And Trump has emboldened them with the birther movement. So he helped give them some momentum and gain some notoriety just because of all of that. So Trump knew what he was doing from the beginning. So I want to know from each of you, we obviously are very upset about what's happened, and we want to try to figure out what's going on in this country with this man running things. Where do we go from here? What can we do?
We can live is what we can do. Somebody made a comment when my daughter posted the pictures of being at the concert. And there were a lot of white people who were in the picture because it's a white band, you know. And they said, you know, y'all need to get out those white folks' way. And I often troll my children. I take great pleasure in trolling my children on social media. And my response to that friend was, we don't live in fear. We live cautiously, but we don't live in fear. If my kids want to go see a concert, they're going to go see, and I say kids, but they're adults. If they want to go see a concert, they're going to go see a concert. But we have to take care of ourselves and each other. We have to turn the news off every now and then. We have to spend more time with our families and hold our children close. And we have to tell them the truth about what's out there. We can no longer, we don't have the luxury of sugarcoating this shit. We don't have that luxury because lives are at stake. And you know, to drive the point home, my entire life, I've had to realize that every time I walk outside this door or someone comes to my door, my life could be in jeopardy just because I wear this skin. But the truth is, what we can do is we can continue to live. We can live with one another, for one another, take care of one another, and pick up a fucking book. Read, learn our history, learn what resistance means, learn what it means to fight, whether that is nonviolent resistance or resistance that's met with violence. Learn how to defend your home and your family with education. Learn how to defend your home and family with the power of your vote. Take your kids to the polls with you. Teach them what this is about. But we don't have the luxury of lying to them or trying to soften the blow. This is hard. This is hard. I still have an elementary school kid at home. I have to explain to even my 20-year-old daughter. Last week we had a conversation and she said, I don't understand why everything has to be about race. I said, sweetie, everything is about race. In this context, everything is about race. This is about racism. This is about hatred of other people because of the color of their skin. There's no greater definition for it. That is the definition of racism. So we can love more. We can learn more. And we can be more.
Yep. I think, Mrs. DaVette, again, I just think educating ourselves and our kids, kind of jumping off of one of Karen's points.
Caron, girl.
And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Just edit that out, Jamie. Come on. Jumping off that point, I think that it's so important for us to kind of go back and look at history. That's where you learn about where we are right now, knowing that this, learning that this isn't the first time this has happened. And, we want to try and make sure that it's the last time, but we're not going to do that unless we look and really see what's going on by examining what's gone on in the past. And so I'm not one of those people who's going to jump on, millennials don't know this or kids don't know that. But I think that there may be some things missing in that process, their living process, because so many things have been, it hasn't been something they've had to deal with. I didn't go to school with white kids until I was in the 5th grade. When I tell younger people that sometimes, they're like, what? Really? Yeah, no, really. It was like...
It was like one white kid until high school, like literally.
Yeah. And so, the fact that I had to actually be bussed across town because they wanted to mix things up a bit. So I didn't get to see a lot of the kids that I went to school with in the first 4 grades again until junior high. So it was, little things like that, bring it home to them that, knowing about where we came from will help us deal with what's going on now. But also, we have to educate ourselves and the people that we need as allies about what's going on right now. as adults who have been through this, we need to talk to those other people and say, okay, you need to know, you need to understand, this is where I'm coming from when I say that we're dealing with this type of racism right now. You need to listen to me. And I think that will get us part of the way.
So I'll just say real quick, on an immediate personal level, find your catharsis, find your therapy. Take that anger and that energy and that hurt energy and put it towards something, whether it's writing a book, gardening, yoga, baking, doing hair, whatever it is, find your catharsis.
Mel?
I agree completely with that. And also I just wanted to say about Friday night when you saw the first images of the protest and they showed the pictures of the students who were standing there with their, anti-protest signs, just a little group of students surrounded by a sea of hate. And sometimes it just makes me so proud to see the young people, how they roll out in just fearless ways and they just throw their bodies into these protests with no thought of their safety. And I just want to say, stay safe. We all want to get out there. We all want to do our parts, but also stay safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your friends. If you need help, ask for help. You don't have to fight every fight. Take some breaks. That's it. That's all I want to say.
Excellent. Go out and vote. And social media, use your social media weight to spread the word. There's a lot of folks out there that is learning so much because of all of these great internet platforms that we use to communicate. So please do that and continue to do so. Thank you so much, Kyndal, Mel, Caron, and DaVette. This was a fantastic episode, and thank you guys for listening in. Please let us know what you think. Use the hashtag BGM Podcast and join in the conversation with other listeners, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
That was a HeadGum podcast.